So we have, hi everyone, good morning. Thank you all for joining, and sorry about the glitch that we had this morning, and which caused some confusion. So we'll begin with a brief introduction and this new initiative that we have started. So over to Mr. Preetham.
Let's set the agenda for today. We are going to have two sessions today. The first one is going to be a session by Dr. B.C.K. Mishra on FIDIC Contracts, a very renowned person. He's been with chapter for a long time. And second session followed by that will be on program management on infrastructure by Professor VTC Rao. And another thing that we're going to have today is something on request of many of the members from construction industry and infrastructure domain, is that we are launching a construction forum, and this forum will be led by none other than Mr. Manoj Gupta, who has been our past president, and he's currently serving on the board of the chapter as mentor and director, and the past president as title states it, but he's been there with us for a long time. So he'll be there, he'll be serving as the representative of the chapter board as chair on this forum. And I'll let him do rest of the talking and not take his time. So over to you, Manojji, for you further.
Thank you, Preetham. Good morning, everyone, and good morning to Dr. B.C.K. Mishra. We have been working with him for long, I think 7-8 years now in the chapter. And he will also be happy to hear about this new initiative. And so let me give you some background to all the attendees. We have been getting feedback in different meet and greet events from our members that they want us to start exclusive forums or communities in some areas like construction, AI, ML, ITES, etc. So this is first in those series. We are launching the construction forum, and this is basically going to work with companies or organization or bodies in the infrastructure creation, construction, and a lot of other areas which are connected with this. And we are going to be soon running a contest with our VP membership, approaching the members for suitable names, including the esteemed speakers, so that we can have a unique and probably innovative name for the forum. And for this, we will be sending requests to all the members, especially the ones who are in construction like real estate, railways, roads, oil and gas, etc., to come and share their suggestions. And we will probably come out with some gift also for the person whose name gets selected. All our speakers in this session today and in the next week's session will be respectfully requested to join and grace this chapter forum so that they can keep on working with the chapter and contribute for the benefit of members, and also where we can learn from each other. Next slide, please. So the overall forum objective, as we are going to define things and refine them over a period of next few weeks, we are going to create different committees for running this forum. Governance committee, management committee structure, and there will be 4 to 5 members of this committee who are chapter members, and along with them we are going to rope in external industry leaders and experts to contribute and guide us and probably do a lot of industry knowledge sharing with the members. And we are going to broadly looking at framing long-term, short-term goals where we brainstorm and shortlist challenges and then come up with suggested solution based upon each other experiences. The idea is basically we will like to collaborate with other chapters who are having similar forums and also industry associations, etc., so that members not only gain knowledge and benefit from association with these bodies, but also learn from the other events. Like we have done sort of a MOU with a body in Mumbai last year who were associated with the reputed architecture college. So we will explore more such associations in the future. And this is what this forum and the committee is going to do. And we are hoping this will bring a lot of value add to our members to learn from people outside the chapter also. So if there are any questions, we can take them offline so that we don't spend a lot of time here. And I'm there on the chat box. So anyone has any question, I can keep on answering them, or otherwise post closure of the presentation, we can take them offline. Over to you, Rakesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for bringing this on. I think the people from construction industry should be feeling amazing. So our next presenter is Mr. BCK Mishra. Mr. BCK Mishra is having more than 36 years of professional experience in power sector. He served UPCL sole distributor company in states of Uttarakhand as managing director for 3 years and 4 months. He has also served as director operations in state-owned power generation company UGVN Limited. After completing BTech from IIT BHU Varanasi in civil engineering in 1984, he began his career from TISCO and then switched over to National Hydroelectric Power Corporation (NHPC) in 1985. During his tenure at NHPC, he rose to the rank of chief engineer. In NHPC, he has been instrumental in conceptualization, survey, investigation, and preparation of DPRs and construction of various projects such as Kotli Behel 1095 megawatt and Daulinga 280 megawatt in Uttarakhand, Kurichu 60 megawatt HEP in Bhutan, Rangit 60 megawatt in Sikkim, and Chamera 540 megawatt in HEP in Himachal Pradesh. He joined UGVN Limited as Executive Director 2007 and became Director Operations in Feb 2009. During the period, he was involved in construction and commissioning of 304 megawatt Maneri Bahali stage IIHEP in Uttarkashi, preparation of DPR and other development works of various large and small hydro projects, and further operation and maintenance of all the large and small power stations in UGVN Limited. A number of records of generation in UGVN Limited were achieved in UGVN Limited during his tenure. Highest generation of 24.749 megawatt in a day on 11th August 2015. Highest ever generation of 675 megawatt in a month in August 2015. Record annual generation of 4,906.26 megawatt, 5,262.82 megawatt, and 4,812.11 megawatt, respectively, during 2010-11, 2011-12, 2012-13, out of which 5,262.82 megawatt is ever highest generation in any year. Modernization and upgradation of Galogi, Patheri, Mohan Madpur, and Katima power stations, construction and commissioning of 4 megawatt Kaliganga ISHP in 2012 had been completed under his leadership. Installation of more than 26 megawatt of solar photovoltaic SPV power plant in UGVNL at Dehradun has also been completed during his tenure. He joined as Managing Director of Uttarakhand Power Commission Limited (UPCL) in April 2017. Under his leadership, UPCL was able to reduction of AT&C losses to the level of 14% during 2017 and 18. AT&C loss level for financial year 2016 and 17 was at the level of 15.85% against the target of 16%. EPCL has been rated into category A plus 2017 and 2018. He is Certified Project Management Professional PMP from PMI. He has done MBA in Finance and completed PhD in Management from UPES Dehradun. He strongly believes in innovation and accepting challenges assignment. Over to you, Mr. Mishra. Here, presentation around.
Okay. Hi, friends. I'm BCK Mishra, as introduced by Mr. Rakesh Pandey. I had been working as managing director in Uttarakhand Power Corporation prior to my superannuation on 31st of July. I have been involved into construction of many large and small projects of various capacities and various financial resources. I had been very active into construction activities, and I have done. I've handled a lot of contracts, and my experience with FIDIC had been the best. We implemented FIDIC contracts. We were very successful with least problems. And FIDIC is basically internationally standard form of contract which is being used very widely. I'll just go ahead with the FIDIC introduction. It's a very vast subject, and there are many things which can be discussed, and many classes can be taken, many lectures can be given on FIDIC. And presently, I will just give you an introduction what is FIDIC, how it works, what are the major contents of the FIDIC. So FIDIC basically is International Federation of Consulting Engineers. It is in French. It is Fédération Internationale des Ingénieurs Councils. Forgive me for my pronunciation. An international standards organization for consulting engineering and construction industry. It was founded in 1913 by 3 countries, mainly Francophone. They are Belgium, France, and Switzerland. England joined in 1949. As on date, there are about 104 member associations from all over the world. Currently located at the World Trade Center in Geneva, Switzerland. The details you can obtain from www.fidic.org. It is a global representative for the consulting engineering industry, promoting the business interest of firms supplying technology-based intellectual services for built and natural environments alike. It is well known for its work of drafting standard conditions of contract for the worldwide construction industry, particularly in the context of higher value international construction projects, and is endorsed by many multilateral development banks. Companies and organizations belong to FIDIC national member associations, which now represent other professionals such as architects, etc. Has affiliate members interested in its work, such as lawyers and insurers. It organizes conferences, seminars, and training courses. Until 2002, FIDIC ran FIDIC Direct, the international directory of consulting engineers, which is now run by Icon Direct. It has mainly contracts and agreements and business practices documents which are provided, like plant and design build contract 2017, it's called Yellow Book. Then construction contract second edition 2017 Red Book. Then EPC and turnkey contracts second edition 2017 Silver Book. Short form of contract Green Book. There are business practices documents for business practices like FIDIC Guide to Practice the Business of a Professional Service Firm. Guidelines for integrated management systems in consulting industry. Project Sustainability Management Application Manual. Quality-Based Selection Guidelines 2011. Then there is a Model Representative Agreement of first edition, which was published in 2013. And FIDIC Procurement Procedures Guidelines, first edition, it was published in 2011. FIDIC started to create its own contracts in August 1957. Red Book is the main book which was started in which was published in 1957. Then its revised editions came in 1969, 1973, 1987, and finally it has come in Rainbow Suite of contracts in 2017. Yellow Book editions were published in 1963, then 1980, then 1987, and finally it has come, which is being used at present was published in 2017. Orange Book mainly focused on design and build or turnkey contracts, which was published in 1995. Currently, FIDIC Rainbow Suite of contracts have come into existence. It is Red Book 2017. It is for construction, mainly for construction, where design is by engineers. Then Yellow Book, Silver Book, and Green Book, and Turquoise Book. Turquoise Book is form of contracts for dredging and reclamation works. It was published in 2006. Pink Book is a modified form of Red Book. It has been adopted by multilateral development banks, MDBs, like Asian Development Bank or Islamic Bank, and then World Bank and all that. There are about 10 multilateral development banks. They have adopted Pink Book. It is, in fact, the banks have been accommodated in this book. Their first edition came in 2006 and subsequent edition came in 2010. Gold Book is for greenfield projects. It is design, build, and operate contracts where operation is also involved. Gold Book has been given. It was published in 2008. Then conditions of subcontract for construction, for building and engineering works designed by the employer has also been provided by FIDIC. It was published in 2011. It is basically for subcontracts under Red Book. It is a subcontract form to be used on a main Red Book contract. White Book is for, it is an intellectual service agreement. It is for consultancy services. Then Purple Book is representative agreement. More consistent, what are the qualities of FIDIC that you should know? That FIDIC has more consistent wordings with improved clarity, user-friendly format and layout, balance between legal precision and practicability, compatible with both common and civil law concepts. Employer's representative has been introduced. He must be fair and reasonable. Distinction between book is based on who does the design, who bears the risk for change in quantities. EPC Silver Book has been designed for engineering, procurement, and construction contracts. It provides for contractor taking almost all the risks. Green Book is short form of contract. It deals with small value contracts, and it's the simplest form of the contract, in which only 15 conditions of contract are there, and it is a very simple contract for small value contracts. Work must continue regardless of differences. Amicable settlement has been encouraged in FIDIC contracts. Strong financial management has to be there. Detailed claims and claim procedures must be followed. Procedure for dispute adjudication and avoidance board and agreement has been specified. The choice of contract, this is the flow chart that gives you choice of contracts. If it's a small value contract and it is simple work, then you follow the Green Book. If it is a large value contract and designed by employer, then you follow a Red Book and Pink Book. Pink Book is for multilateral development banks. If design is, if there is sharing of risks involved, then you have to, and sharing of risks with operation, then you have to go for yellow book and pink book. And then if it is, if operation is not there, it is gold book. If sharing of risk is not there, then EPC contracts are provided. And this is the flow chart that will give you, that will explain things, that how to go about the contracts, choice of contracts. Then FIDIC suite of contracts, basically it was published in 2017. It is mainly a red book, which is conditions of contract for construction, for building and engineering works designed by the employer. In yellow book 2017 is conditions of contract for plant and design build for electrical and mechanical plants and for building works designed by contractor. Then silver book is 2017 is conditions of contract for EPC and turnkey projects. Its first edition had come in 1999. Then pink book is harmonized red book. It is for conditions of contract for construction, for building and engineering works designed by the employer for use as part of the standard bidding documents for the MDBs. The Islamic Development Bank and the World Bank worked with FIDIC in developing this contract. And gold book is design, build, operate contract, conditions of contract for design, build and operate projects. Then green book is short form of contract. Its first edition came in 1999. Sub-consultancy agreements are there, its first edition came in 1992. And white book is for client consultant model services agreement. Its fourth edition came in 2006. The blue-green book is dredger's contract. Its first edition came in 2006. Then conditions of subcontract for construction used in conjunction with red book and the pink book. It is for the subcontractors of red book, mainly red book and pink book. Then I would discuss you about the green book. These conditions of contract are suitable for engineering and building works of relatively small capital value, or fairly simple or repetitive works, or work of short duration without the need for specialist subcontracts. The scope of the contract is irrelevant. In this form, the model form only includes the basic provisions of a construction contract. The employer may appoint an independent engineer to carry out the design and to administrate the construction contract. The design is provided by the employer or his representative. The contractor is responsible for construction. The employer has choice of valuation methods. The employer has a choice of the price of construction. A short form of adjudication provisions is inserted. All necessary information should be provided in the appendix to the agreement, the latter incorporating the tenderer's offer and its acceptance in one simple document. Red Book 2017, it's a construction contract or conditions of contract for building and engineering works designed by the employer. In fact, the design is given by the employer in Red Book. Referred to as Red Book is a work only contract. An independent engineer is appointed by the employer to administrate the construction contract. The design is provided by the employer or his representative. The contractor is responsible for construction. The engineer has a choice of valuation methods. The price of construction is based on measurement of quantities indicated in the bill of quantities, and the actual work done within the contract is measured and paid at the unit price. Increase in quantities vis-a-vis the initial contract amounts, which are the sole result of the measured actual quantity exceeding the stated quantities in the BOQ, do not represent a change of the contract and do not require any administrative order for a modification. nor a contract addendum. A standing long form of adjudication provisions is provided for avoiding disputes. MDB's harmonized construction contract pink book, first edition came in 2006. Second edition was published in 2010. It is extensively based on the FIDIC Red Book. The main differences between the pink book and the red book are that MDB allows for involvement of the bank, includes provisions for dealing with suspension of disbursement by the bank, imposes similar deadlines on the employer as on the contract. It has much greater emphasis on social issues, has a greater emphasis on anti-corruption measures. MDB's, as I told you, is World Bank, European Commission, Islamic Bank for Development. There are 10 banks. The Islamic Bank for Development, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, Black Sea Trade and Development Bank, Caribbean Development Bank, Council of Europe Development Bank, Indian American Development Bank. They all follow FIDIC Pink Book, MDBs. It's harmonized edition of Red Book. Then FIDIC Yellow Book, which was published in 2017. It's a part of Rainbow Suite. Rainbow Suite 2017, the plant and design build contract or conditions of contract for electrical and mechanical plant and for building and engineering works designed by the contractor. In this, an independent engineer must be appointed by the employer to administrate the construction contract. The contractor is responsible for design, construction, and fitness for the purpose in accordance with the employer's requirement. Payment to the contractor are based on lump sum price, whereas in Red Book it is based on item rate. It is based on bill of item rate given in the bill of quantities. The engineer has a choice of valuation methods for variations only. A long form of contract adjudication provisions is provided in Yellow Book. The Gold Book was published in 2008. Is based on the development from 1990, based on and developed from 1999 Yellow Book. It is intended for projects where employer wishes the contractor not only to design and construct a facility, but also to continue and operate and maintain that facility for a long number of years. The examples can be water treatment plants, power generation plants, and manufacturing or process facilities, motorways, highway projects. The design, build, and operate approach to contracting combines design, construction, and long-term operation of a facility into one single contract awarded to a single contractor who will usually be a joint venture or consortium representing all the disciplines and skills called for in a DBO arrangement. Public-private partnership, PPPs, fall in this arrangement. The advantage of DBOs are quality. With the contractor responsible long years of operation, he has an interest to design and build quality plant with low operation and maintenance cost. Not only will the plant be fit for purpose, but it will be built to last. Then time with possibilities to overlap with some design and build activities. It will be possible to minimize delays and optimize the smooth flow of construction activities. Financial, with cost restraints and commitments and other risks being carried by the contractor, there is less risk of price overruns. Payment is made on lump sum basis. Then FIDIC Silver Book 2017 is for engineer, procure and construct and turnkey contract or conditions of contract for EPC turnkey projects referred to as 1999 Silver Book. It is recommended and it is to be used for EPC contract, the Silver Book. A higher degree of certainty of a firm price and time is required. The contractor takes full responsibility to provide a fully equipped facility ready for operation. At the turn of the key, the project has to start. The contract is administered by an employer's representative, that is not an independent engineer, to mark the little involvement of the employer. Increased contractor risk allocation is there, where it takes total responsibility. The contractor takes the total responsibility of design, construction, and fitness for the purpose. The Turquoise book, it was published in 2006. The first edition maintains the wording of the test edition 2001. Extensively, it is based on FIDIC Gold Book and Turquoise book, may be used for all types of dredging and reclamation work and ancillary construction with a variety of administrative arrangements. The contractor is not expected to producing substantial design. Contrary to Gold Book, an independent engineer must be appointed by the employer to administrate the dredging and reclamation works. The general conditions cover all essential elements of the legal framework. For instance, money and time relief is available in the event of delay and/or additional costs due to certain natural catastrophes and weather conditions. A balanced and realistic approach to risk allocation is afforded in connection with adverse subsurface conditions. Alternative valuation methods, 5 alternative valuation methods may be used, all of which requiring an assessment of the works on a monthly basis. The classical defect rectification regime does not apply in Turquoise book. The White Book is basically for consultancy services, and it is based on quality and cost-based selection 2013. The Client Consultant Model Services Agreement, Intellectual Services Agreement, is intended to cover the minimum requirements of typical appointment contract between a client and his consultant. Additional or amended clauses may be required in the particular conditions to address particular project and commercial issues between the parties. The consultant has the only duty to exercise reasonable skill, care, and diligence in the performance of its obligations under the agreement. In clause 3.5.1, it is given that the consultant staff is subject to acceptance by the client with regard to qualifications and experience. The client is not allowed to vary the services to be delivered without prior agreement of both the parties. It is mentioned in clause 4.3.3 of FIDIC White Book. The client is empowered to terminate the contract for convenience and to transfer it to another consultant. Settlement of disputes involve negotiations, mediation, and then arbitration. No adjudication is involved in FIDIC White Book. FIDIC Purple Book, it's a representative agreement in 2013. Its details are, it's a model representative agreement. Test edition was published in 2004 and first edition came in 2013. Particular conditions involve have references from clauses in the general conditions, references from the appendices 3 and 4. Appendices are scope of services, basis of remuneration, and then consultants code of conduct, consultants business integrity, policy statement, and general conditions are given in definitions, interpretation, scope of representation, limits of representation, warrants, remuneration, consultants' rights, currency, exchange and taxes, termination, notices, registrations, liability, arbitration and governing law, confidentiality, corruption, and then last one is the miscellaneous. There are satellite agreements also. FIDIC publishes other agreements dedicated to facilitating the carrying out of main contract. The joint venture or consortium model agreement has been provided by FIDIC, and then sub-consultant agreement has also been provided by FIDIC. The 2017, what is the FIDIC approach? What is the FIDIC approach to risk allocation? The 2017 Red Book is globally the most commonly used standards form of contract for construction and engineering works, where most or all the works are designed by or on behalf of the employer. When profiling risk, FIDIC has historically allocated risk based on which party is best placed to assume the risk. In contrast, the Silver Book adopts a market practice approach, placing the majority of risk on the contractor, primarily including design and design coordination along with any employer design. With Red Book and Yellow Book, the employer takes on risks such as unforeseeable ground conditions, unforeseeable operations of the forces of nature, force majeure, such as acts of war, terrorism, and natural disaster, planning and environmental permits, and changes to law. The party who prepares the design takes on the responsibility for its defect. Why FIDIC contract? Why FIDIC contract is so prevalent? The only true international standard. It is tried and tested for over 50 years. It is trusted by thousands of clients, contractors, consultants, financiers, and lawyers. It has balanced conditions, designed for practical use by practitioners. It is flexible and it reflects market demand. Good risk management tool has been provided into the contract. It is simple. It has simple risk management processes. It is cost effective. It reflects international best practice for local application. What are the FIDIC procurement procedures? There is a FIDIC procurement procedures guide which has been provided by FIDIC. Its first tendering procedure guideline it was published in 1982, dealing with procedures for awarding civil engineering contracts. The second tendering procedure was published in 1994 to take into account the 1987 edition of Red Book and Yellow Book, as well as practices of the international funding institutions. The 2011 edition takes account of the publication of new FIDIC forms of contract agreements, gives essential guidance to the point where a contract type is chosen, and stresses that the tender process is preceded by initial studies and feasibility studies to be carried out, as they provide the basis for development of all the important project strategy. Provides up-to-date detailed guidance on each step in the tendering processes, complemented by sample documents covering such matters as pre-qualification and instructions to tenderers. The procurement principles under FIDIC are economy and efficiency, ethics, accountability, impartiality, effectiveness, transparency and confidentiality, strong competition, publicity and wide participation, fair and equal conditions, standard procedures and documentation. The life cycle under FIDIC has also been mentioned. Identifying and validating the procurement need, including planning, budgeting, financing, soliciting of tender offers, evaluate offers and select contractor, award contracts, either the economically most advantageous offers or the lowest offers, administer contract and confirm compliance, payment and compensation. FIDIC believes in sustainability management. FIDIC strongly promotes a full range of policy on sustainability management. The projects and sustainability management system and indicators drive projects towards global goals for sustainable development by forcing alignment, improvement, education, and innovation. Dispute education rules have been provided in FIDIC. There are two parts: appendix to tender and dispute adjudication rules. Appendix to tender is provided in Red Book and Yellow Book, whereas it is the same, but it is mentioned as contract data in MDB, Multilateral Development Bank's Pink Book and Gold Book. Notably, it refers to engineer Employers representative also referred to as the contract administrator. DAB rules, members appointing authority, nominated subcontractors, suppliers and or designers imposed by the employer, contract administrator, various sections of the work, then time for completion, defects notification period, duration, governing law, currency data, delay damages, advance payment, retention, securities, insurance, adjustment data. All these are provided in appendix to tender or contract data. Then for dispute adjudication, there is specific mention in dispute adjudication. It specifically refers DAB, Dispute Adjudication Board Members Agreement, then particular conditions, appendix to tender, contract data, general conditions, standing DAB for Red Book and Pink Book, VS ad hoc DAB for Yellow Book, Silver Book and Gold Book, procedural rules and general conditions of DAB agreement. The traditional approach of FIDIC is to give authority to a skilled third party, the engineer. It is mentioned. It is provided in Red Book, Pink Book and Yellow Book, or the employer's representative in Silver Book and Gold Book, acting as a contract administrator to ensure projects are well managed and for holding a fair balance between the parties. The contract administrator is not expected to solely work as an employer's agent. What should be the quality of engineer? It has been mentioned in successive slides. DAB made of 1 or 3 members is the other stakeholder involved to reach a fair balance of risks in the contract administration. The works must be divided into sections so that contractor may complete sections of the works at different times from the whole of the works. Where this option is adopted, the time for completion of each section must be identified with their respective price and delay damages. There are 4 stakeholders in a FIDIC contract: the employer, party, then DAB stakeholder, and then contract administration, his engineer or employer's representative, and the contractor is a party. So a FIDIC contract involves 4 main stakeholders: the employer, the contractor, the contract administrator, and DAB. There's in contract documents there is a part which gives technical data. The technical data, employer's requirements or specifications. The item is in green is common. That is in the slides wherever it is mentioned in green color, it is common to all the type of documents. The employer's requirement, Yellow Book, Silver Book and Green Book, that is describing the problem to be solved, notably refer to description of the works of the whole project, contract with its intended purpose. Based on a schematic design, each requirement is described by the problems to be solved through needs, constraints, design scope and skill. Specifications notably refer to description of works of the whole project, contract with its intended purpose. Based on a developed design, the solution to be carried out is described through specifications, detailed drawings and BOQ, bill of quantities, technical standards, milestones, conformity control requirements for design review and tests during execution, on completion, after completion, as-built drawings, operation and maintenance manuals. The bill of quantities for Red Book and Pink Book, they notably cover provisional sums, BOQ items, rates and measurements. What are the deliverables in FIDIC standard bid documents? The core provisions come from clauses 4 to 7 of the FIDIC contracts. There are 20 clauses in FIDIC standard bid documents. The core provisions come from 4 to 7, clause 4 to 7. Design, it is provided in red book, yellow book, silver book, pink book, and gold book. Works, it is covered in clause 1.1.5.8, red book, yellow book, silver book, and pink book, and clause 1.1.82 in gold book. Express and implied works, it is covered in clause 4.1 with differences in the different books. The contractor must provide the plant and contractor's documents, contractor's personnel, goods, consumables, and other things and services, whether of temporary or permanent nature, required in and for the contractor's design to the extent specified in the contract. Executing and completing the works, work even implied by the contract in accordance with the contractual commitments, remedying of defects, the adequate stability and safety of all site operations and of all methods of construction of the works, all books, and proper operation of the works. Permanent works clause is covered in clause 1.1.5.4, red book, yellow book, silver book, and pink book, and 1.1.61 gold book, are those to be executed by the contractor and handed over to the employer. Temporary works are mentioned in clause 1.1.5.7 in red book, yellow book, silver book, and pink book, in clause 1.1.79 in gold book. These are those required on site for the execution and completion of the permanent works and the remedying of any defects, and that are not handed over to the employer but are removed by the contractor. They may be false work, coffer dams, temporary retaining walls, form work, scaffoldings, and the like. They do not include contractor's equipment. Standard and quality manner of execution is provided in clause 7.1. Activities must be performed in the manner specified in the contract. Such carrying out of work must be done in a proper workmanlike and careful manner in accordance with the recognized good practice and with properly equipped facilities and non-hazardous materials except as otherwise specified in the contract. Compliance with the laws and technical standards and regulations have been mentioned in clause 1.13 of red book, yellow book, silver book, and pink book, and in 1.14 of gold book. The contractor is required to comply with applicable laws in performing the contract. Quality assurance has been mentioned in clause 4.9. The contractor must institute a quality assurance system in accordance with the details stated in the contract, and the contract administrator may audit any aspect of the system. Method of construction has been mentioned in clause 4.1, clause 4.6 in yellow book, silver book, and gold book. The contractor must submit details of the arrangements and methods proposed for the execution of the works and is always responsible for all methods of construction of the works. Safety, personnel, and execution. The contractor is to provide all contractors' personnel mentioned in clause 1.1, 1.2.7, 4.1. Clause 6 covers requirements for the recruitment, employment, and behavior of contractor staff and labor, together with specific requirements for superintendents and records. Health and safety is mentioned in clause 2.3b and clause 4.8. Personnel is mentioned in clause 6 with specific duties in pink book. Execution cooperation clause 4.6 and 4.11. Contractor superintendent's rights of ways 4.13. Avoidance of interference with public clause 4.14, and protection of the environment clause 2.3b and 4.18. The contractor's equipment are mentioned in clause 4.17. Facilities for staff and labor is mentioned in clause 6.6. So this is another deliverable, the execution of the work, and then employer's equipment and free issue materials is provided in clause 4.20. Contractor's documents, are provided in clause 1.1.6.1, Red Book, in Red Book, Yellow Book, and Silver Book, and clause 1.1.19 in Gold Book, in clause 5.2 in Yellow Book, Silver Book, and Gold Book, that may be submitted either for review or for consent. The technical documents specified in the employer's requirements, documents required to satisfy regulatory approvals, as-built documents, clause 5.6, and operation and maintenance manual, clause 5.7. Training is to be imparted by the contractor in accordance with clause 5.5, Yellow Book and Silver Book, and clause 10.5, Gold Book, to the extent specified in the employer's requirements. No obligations under Red Book and Pink Book. As-built documents are to be provided by the contractor. It is mentioned in clause 5.6, Yellow Book and Silver Book, and in clause 5.5 in Gold Book. It is as-built documents for contractors' operations on site, clause 4.3, access after taking over, clause 11.7 of Red Book, Yellow Book, Silver Book, and Pink Book, clearance of site, clause 11.11 and clause 11.9b of Silver Book, and 4.23 of Gold Book. Site data and tender information is mentioned in clause 4.10 and clause 4.11 in Silver Book. Employers' equipment and free issue materials have been provided in clause 4.20, and adverse physical conditions have been mentioned in clause 4.12 in connection with clause 4.10 and 4.11. On-site performance has been mentioned in clause 1.1.6.7, Red Book, Yellow Book, Silver Book, and Pink Book, clause 1.1.72, Gold Book, clause 2.1, setting out is given in clause 4.7. Exits and access routes have been provided in clause 2.1, clause 4.c, Red Book, in Red Book, Yellow Book, and MDB, and Gold Book, and in clause in Gold Book it is mentioned in clause 4.15. Transportation of plant and goods is mentioned in clause 4.13, clause 4.16, and clause 4.23. Security of the site has been mentioned in clause 4.22. Operation and maintenance manuals are to be provided in accordance with clause 5.7, Yellow Book and Silver Book, and clause 5.6 and Gold Book. Operation service is to be provided by the contractor in Gold Book in accordance with Gold Book mentioned at clause 4.1. Timeline, it is payment timeline, how the payment is to be made, it is given. This is basically after the end of the period of payment stated in the contract. There are 4 stages basically. The first stage is end of the period of payment stated in the contract, or if not so stated, end of each month. So contractor submits interim statement and supporting documents to the employer for release of payment. Then engineer of the contract issues interim payment certificates, IPC, to the employer within 28 days. And within 56 days, the employer makes the payment to the contractor. So this is the first stage. For running bill payments, this is the timeline that has been provided in the FIDIC contracts. It is provided into Red Book, Yellow Book, and Pink Book. It's mentioned at clause 14. Then the date of receipt for final bills, like for date of receipt of or taking over certificate. Then within 84 days, the contractor submits 6 copies of statements at completion with supporting documents to the engineer. Within 28 days, engineer issues interim payment certificate to the employer, and within 56 days, the employer makes payment to the contractor. Then, in accordance with clause 14.11, the contractor submits draft final statement to the engineer. It is 56 days after receipt of performance certificate. Then finally, the content of the contractor submits final statement and written discharge. Because once the contractor submits the final statement and written discharge, the content of the draft final statement is agreed by the contractor and engineer, or in event of a dispute, resolved by a decision of dispute adjudication board, or by way of amicable settlement as per clause 20.5. So employer issues final payment certificate to the employer. Engineer issues final payment certificate to the employer. This is to be issued within 28 days. And again, within 56 days, the employer makes payment to the contractor. Specific roles of FIDIC contract administrator. They have a very important role to play in FIDIC contracts. He works as employer's agent, he works as employer's supervisor, he works as a certifier. So as employer's agent, he is involved in implementing and changing the design, checking quality assurance, quality control, on-site administration and management. As supervisor, he looks after compliance with specified quality, progress in accordance with the planned program, budget control as in the cost plan, compliance with other methods such as safety and other matters such as safety, environmental control, etc. As certifier, he has to issue taking over or a final certificate, clause 14, certifying the date of completion of the works, clause 8, and end of the defect notification period, clause 14, certifying interim or final or payment, interim payment or payments to the contractor and to the nominated subcontractors, valuation of work done materials supplied and other equipment on site in case of termination, clause 15.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. I think we need to do a bit of time check here.
Okay, but it's about only 2-3 slides left. So
Perfect.
on a case-to-case basis, he works as a designer, as expected function and performance, the expected function and performance, the shape, form and dimensions of the project, the selection of the materials and workmanship, the production of the document, cost estimates to completion, and estimating timing and sequence of the construction. As the adjudicator, the contract administrator reviews previous determinations if the engineer is also adjudicator. The timelines for payment principal events during the contract, it is basically once the tender is floated and the tender is submitted, prior to 28 days prior to the submission of the tender, the base date is given in the contract. Then a commencement date is provided in the contract. Then time of completion is given. It includes time extension of time given by the employer because of his fault, which is attributable to the employer. Then and the time extension is given for delays attributable to the contractor. And then taking over certificate is issued. Then defect notification period, as mentioned in contract, is given. Then notifying the defects are notified. Then once the defects are remedied by the contractor within 28 days, the performance security of the contractor is refunded. The sequence of payment is the same as mentioned earlier. The contractor submits the bill within 28 days. Employer gives contractor notice of amount considered due. Within 56 days, employer makes payment to the contractor. Contractor submits the final bill, and within 42 days, the employer makes the payment. These are the very important things which have been mentioned in the contract, and they serve for no dispute in implementation of the works. Thank you. Thank you so much for being patient and listening to me. It had been, in fact, it is a very lengthy subject, and it requires a lot of time. You know, it requires a lot of time to understand FIDIC. It is just that I gave you a brief introduction of FIDIC. It covered almost all things, but if you go into details and intricacies, it will take more time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. That was really an awesome presentation. We really loved it. I do see a few questions, but I think we've run out of time. So if you can take a moment, and before you do that, I have.
I will just email me the questions. If it is possible, you can email me the questions. I will send you the answers. That will be the easiest thing to do.
Or maybe you can look at the Q&A box and type the responses there.
Okay,
that will do as well.
I will.
We have Vikas, would you like to switch over? And I have made you presenter, so you Mr. Vikas would like to have a word of thanks.
Yes, thank you. And it's a very interesting day today. We are full of technology challenges. Sometimes the link was not working, the laptops went off, the presenter link wasn't working, and then my Bluetooth stopped working. I had to restart. And as if that was less, while I was in the call, I got call from my mom that in my house, the water pump has stopped working. So I have to look for that. So it's a very interesting day today, full of challenges. And I understand, I really apologize for all the delay that's been caused. I know BCK sir, you also got delayed because of those technical challenges. And our next speaker, Professor VTCS Rao, you are also delayed. So thank you so much for waiting, and thank you so much for accommodating that. BCK sir, while I was going through it, your presentation, to a naive person like me, I thought contracting is just getting a document and signing from both the parties. And when I look into this now, the red book, the pink book, the white book, the silver book, and so many clauses, I'm flabbergasted by the information. So I'm very sure that this is a very complex topic, as you rightly said. So thank you very much for taking out time and walking us through that. As a little token of appreciation, we have a certificate for you that you see on the screen, and we will be mailing it to you, the hard copy of that, and we will be planting 10 trees on your behalf for your contribution to the PMI chapter. So thank you very much once again. And the questions I will mail you on the email, and then we will circle back because we can't take it in interest of time, and we will circle back to the audience who have asked it. So thank you very much. And Rakesh, over to you, please, to introduce the next speaker.
Thank you, Vikas. Thank you so much. Thank you, the team. Rakesh ji, thank you so much. There was technical glitch, and because of that, there was some delay. There's no problem as such from my side, but definitely, I mean, at last it was sorted out. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for taking time. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Professor V.T. Chandrasekhar Rao. I'm making a presenter, Mr. Rao. While you bring up your screen, I would like to talk about a bit of you. So, Professor V.T. Chandrasekhar Rao is Dean at L&T Institute of Project Management, IPMI, with campuses in Vadodara and Chennai. In his nearly 4 decades of professional experience, Mr. Rao executed large EPC and EPCM projects related to oil and gas, refining, power, steel, industrial infrastructure structure, and provided guidance to several project managers, engineering managers, and construction managers. Mr. Rao started his project professional career with design engineering initially, and later moved to project management of large capital projects. Prior to joining L&T IPM as Dean of L&T IPM, he has founded Shrestha Solutions LLP with a mission to impart and instill project management best practices and competencies in engineering and construction industry through learning interventions, coaching, and consultancy. He held various senior leadership positions in corporate roles of large multinationals such as Voist Alpine, Flower, and Amick Foster Wheeler. During the large multi-discipline, multi-location, and multi-billion-dollar projects in US, Canada, Australia, India, Middle East, Nigeria, and UK, he has worked with Fortune 100 clients like ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, Saudi Aramco, Woodside Group, and Indian Oil. Mr. Roy is postgraduate in civil engineering with rich experience in program and project implementation and core strength in engineering management, project management, risk management, contract and claims management, and operations management. Mr. Rao also spoke at several national conferences, PMI conferences, and conducted many training sessions and workshops to the best practices of project management for owner and contracting companies. He is also certified CEO coach from Coaching Federation of India and has been involved in executing coaching of senior executives of IT and EPC companies. Mr. Rao held position of chairperson of Forum Advisory Committee for Engineering and Construction Forum, a joint initiative by PMI Chennai, IIT Madras, and the industry. He is also a member of PMI India's Academic Advisory Group. Mr. Rao chaired the Technical Committee for NPM-PF, National Program Project Management Policy Framework, instituted by Niti Aayog, and was author of major section of Indian Infrastructure Body of Knowledge, INBOK, for program and project management. Mr. Rao is also certified project manager professional, PMP, and risk management professional, PMI RMP, and from PMI and the fellow of Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, FRICS, Institute of Directors, FIOD, and Institute of Engineers, FIE. Thank you, Professor Rao, for taking out time and sharing your thoughts and insights with us. Thank you so much. Please, over to you, Professor Rao.
Okay, thank you very much, Rakesh, and it's my pleasure to be in this program, which is actually related to infrastructure projects and the construction projects, etc. I spent nearly 4 decades in this industry, and was fortunate to be involved in several initiatives which are for the progressing the profession in the best practices, etc. Today, I'm trying to touch on one concept, which is program management. We deliberated it because you see a lot of times when you look at mega drive by the government or by any program implementation agency, what happens is that everybody says this is the project, etc. But if one of the projects doesn't meet the deadlines or objectives, then the entire program will be at a loss, in the sense it doesn't meet the objectives of the program or the benefits that are going to be realized about the program. Sometimes people are familiar with the program management in IT sector, where multiple versions of software launches the program, and we start issuing with version 1, version 2, version 3 of the software or a product, etc. But when it comes to infrastructure and construction management, that needs to be looked into much more detail. And my intention today is to give a brief overview of why program management and how it is contextual to talk about this subject. Many thanks to PMI North India Board for this opportunity. Let me see. So you can see that, I mean, whether it is a big solar power program or like in Delhi, we have the DMRC with various phases. So when you take any of these mega projects, there are not one project. For example, various lines of DMRC, there are different projects, and within the different lines, there are several contractors working. For each contractor, each of the contract is a project, whereas for the DMRC, it is a group of several projects. So the emphasis now is that when you are looking at the group of several projects, are we looking at them with a consistent basis? And when one of the projects is not meeting the objective, how we can ensure that still the program's intended purpose is served. So typically, I don't know how to minimize it. So typically, the infrastructure projects, I mean, I have given an example of Hyderabad Metro, which is done by, which is an L&T joint venture. If you look at each of the lines, each of the line is a program, and within each program, there are several projects done by various independent companies of L&T. So the issue is that we have been traditionally using word for project, and what is the word for project of projects? So the right word is not the portfolio, because portfolio generally means for a business, what kind of portfolio you handle. But the right thing, right word is the program. So we may be using the term project, but we actually we are executing programs or implementing programs. So I would like to touch this subject a little bit more and with contextualize to why we have to talk about program management and particularly about the infrastructure sector. We have been Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. They publish reports on how the projects. I think they track the projects more than 150 crores of size, and then look at how the projects are progressing. But when you look at the recent data, we collected this data in December 2020. If you see the railway projects, the typical overrun is about 19%, cost overrun is 15%, roadway project, and railway project, it's a bit high because if you include the metros under this category, the 51% to 67%, oil and gas, hydrocarbon projects, refineries, petrochemicals, etc. Typically, their cost overrun is 20%. Schedule overruns is unpardonable. Generally, it is more than 50%. Power projects is another dimension. Typical time overruns are 61%, and on an average, cost overruns are about 42%. And urban infrastructure development are generally cost overrun is 14% and time overrun is 31%. If you look at on the time side, I think most of the infrastructure projects are really having challenges. Why they're having challenges and what we can do about it is probably the topic of the day. So, if you look at the national infrastructure, the pipeline, the series of projects, you can see it in the website. A series of the projects, we probably have close to about 8,000 projects with about $2 trillion of investment. And with this, if I look at $2 trillion or $2,000 billion, if I have 20% overrun on average in all those projects, that itself is a huge number. It is about $400 billion. Can a nation afford this, or can this money be used in other dimensions related to providing health, education, etc.? So the issue is that collectively, whether you are a contractor or we are a project implementation agency or a consultancy who is standing in between, we all have a collective responsibility to ensure that we use the best practices, avoid the confrontational attitude, and then look at the benefits which are going to be given by any projects. For example, if you are constructing, if you are putting a typical example of program is if you are putting a program of DMRC is a great example. DMRC, I mean, now because of the growth, that's no longer an issue, but DMRC, when it is instituted, I think it led to a lot of reduction in pollution, connectivity of various stations. It lessened the traffic density in the town. But again, Delhi is a great city, so it grows continuously. So it's probably, we probably need multimodal solutions in the case of Delhi. But having said that, if that kind of a model is chosen, where all the projects which are of similar nature are connected to meet the overall objectives of the program. Generally, when we talk about program, we call what are the benefits that are coming out of this program. The benefits typically economic benefits, which will be general growth of economy around the particular program that is an infrastructure program that is undertaken. There could be social benefits. People will have more access to transport and more access to medical facilities, etc. So there will be multiple benefits which are foreseen by a program. We cannot look at purely when it is a major program being implemented by the government. It can't be just purely looked into the recovery kind of a solution, but if economic consideration, it should be looked at from other benefits to the society at large. The social issue is that when we look at all these programs, and I talked about typical delays that happened of those programs, there were issues related to land acquisition, there are issues related to the right of way. Sometimes the DPR is not so good. The DPR stands for Detailed Project Report. Some of the times contractor was not able to mobilize. Some of the time because of the funding issues, the payment is not made on time. And because of the way the contracts are written, my earlier speaker talked about FIDIC, etc. FIDIC is, by the way, it is an equitable contract. And we have probably better contract with NHAA and NITI draft contract, etc., which I'll talk about a bit later. So the issue is there are several factors you can see on the left side. And what is the solution to address those which are causing cost and schedule overruns in the projects? So these few steps are taken in the direction. So NITI, if you remember, maybe 2017-18, NITI, some people who are in this domain, NITI placed a draft contract for EPC works for civil kind of person, because most of the time infrastructure projects are civil contracts. And we have issues with the labor. You have several, about 20 odd labor laws, 21 odd labor laws to be followed. I think there was a simplification of labor laws, and there are several other issues. So there was a committee which is formed, which is finally they came with the requirement of national program and project management policy framework, and which is probably going to lead to a creation of very soon and National Institute of Charter Project Professionals, which will ensure that only certified people will come and execute the projects. And Invoke is something where I was a part of the team, which we created for infrastructure body of knowledge, which is a very heavy volume, which provides guidelines for executing projects in large capital projects in the infrastructure domain. So when typically what happens is there is I think as Vikas said, a lot of times we all feel that when a contract document is signed between the two parties, it's over, then I think it's going to be one party responsible for execution, other party can watch and have the fun. It's never the case, because a project is a collaborative effort, and it has to be both owner has their accountabilities and their responsibilities to deliver, whereas the contractor has some responsibility to deliver. So both the owner and as well as the contractor, owner means any project implementation agency. It could be Ministry of Highways or Ministry of Railways, or it could be a special vehicle created like our HSR high-speed rail, the company which you installed for taking care of the high-speed rail project. It could be a special vehicle, but all of them I consider them as with a simple term called project implementation agencies. Project implementation agencies should follow a programmatic approach to program implementation. Project execution companies like contractors, designers, and the PMCs should follow a structured project management processes like we have in PMBOK and other extensions of PMBOK for construction, etc. So this is with this objective, we were introducing program management in as a part of executing a future infrastructure project. I mean, typically, what is the program? What is the mission? For example, if you look at the Bharatmala, the roadways, we're building the roadways to the existing Golden Quadrilateral, which is initiated by Vajpayee government. So the Bharatmala Greenfield expressways are a mission. This mission has to translate to, I'll just use leather pointer, translate to some programs which are connecting between the two, like Indore, Mumbai, could be Pune, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Trichy, Kharagpur, Kolkata. These could be programs, and each of the program, like 310 kilometers of roadways to be constructed, maybe we divided into 6-7 projects. Each project is executed by a different contractor. Because when you talk about $1 billion of investment and projects of bigger size, then one single contractor to execute, and the whole risk is with this contractor. And if the contractor fails in this delivery, the whole program is going to fail. So it is always necessary to divide into multiple projects, and also to ensure that the dependency between the various projects and to the program is at least protected. So it is a mission like Bharatmala could be converted into few programs, and each program may be having few projects. So typically, if you have an implementation agency, they will have a portfolio. They may be addressing the roadways. They may be addressing some other developments related to the border roads, etc. So there could be some multiple portfolios. But each of the program, as I indicated earlier, that may be having several projects. Some of the times it may be a single project, so they probably don't need to have a program. When you talk about a program, there will be always a constituent projects, and there will be some work which is not related to any project. For example, if you are trying to implement a digitalization plan, integrating all the project data to one single server for data-driven decision making, that initiative is a separate project, not related to building of the roads, because and creating a digital twin is a different subject compared to creating a physical twin. So when there is a program, of course, there is a delivery management. I use some of the standard definitions on the right side, talking about a portfolio. Today we'll focus on the program. Program is a temporary flexible organization to create and oversee implementation of a set of projects on some other work, as I mentioned, which is not divided into the projects, to deliver the outcomes and benefits related to a strategic objective. That strategic objective, in case of a smart cities mission, could be a smart city in Vadodara or smart cities and someplace, could be a program. And smart city Vadodara could have a project consisting of digitalizing all the traffic work, and maybe there will be digitalizing of all the utilities using power, both power as well as gas, etc. So this could be the program as a separate projects. And this project is obviously most of your PMI people PMP certified. So it is a temporary endeavor to meet those objectives. So it is. So typically, what will happen is that the PMI defines the program management as a set of related projects. I mean, I think definition of PMI is absolutely fine in a coordinated fashion to obtain and control the benefits otherwise would not be available by executing a single package. So maybe peer is a very big statement. I will just simplify it in the next slide. And if I look at translating it to infrastructure projects, the program management and infrastructure development we can describe as practice of incorporating both strategic and tactical management techniques on construction projects and other work from inception to completion to increase the likelihood of success of the program. And if you really look at both of them, each individual project success is important, but unless each of the project succeeds and other work to complement the project is also succeeds, you can't have the successful program. Few examples I'll try to give when I think a little bit later. So if I look at strategically, a ministry or a company, in case of a non-governmental organization, could have a portfolio of the projects. And let us take an example of our own company, L&T. L&T has multiple portfolios, starting from hydrocarbon, infrastructure, to energy, to distribution, etc. So many things. If you look at our Hyderabad Metro, it is a program. And Hyderabad Metro has, as shown earlier, has several component projects. And each project, when executed, I think then it meets the objective of the program and the business need of the company. If you talk about a government organization, government may invest, put in the budget several expenditures to benefit the country, that may be translated to a few programs, which will be consisting of several projects. So typically, project implementation agency like a high-speed rail corporation or a DMRC, these are all program implementation agencies. It has operational component as well, because DMRC has the start of revenue through operations. And if I look at the individual project, for example, L&T or some other company is doing a particular project, then I think what is expected is to do the project well. When you're looking at a program management, it is to ensure that the right things get done, means definition of each project is right, interrelations of multiple projects are right, and the portfolio would always mean that you have to select the right thing to do. So these are all how the portfolio, program, and projects are interrelated in case of a. So typically, in a project, we are all familiar. I mean, talk about triple constraint. Well, quality has to be ensured. Time, cost, and scope sit on the other three sides of the triangle. And whereas in program management, which is a summary of multiple projects, which is a conglomeration of multiple project work and non-project work, we look at the benefits, because if you are not able to arrive the benefit, give the benefits on time, the benefits may be useless. And there is a necessity to ensure the scope and each of the project scope, etc., is managed well. And it is also necessary to ensure that the stakeholder expectations, DMRC stakeholder expectations is the stakeholders like landowners, the people who are using that, to look at a road or to look at water treatment program or something. They're all multiple stakeholders. For example, even if you take a high-speed rail program, we have multiple stakeholders who are the landowners. Unless the landowners' issues and considerations are addressed properly, you probably will not have a successful project management. Apart from the other stakeholders, like business people, travelers, people who will be traveling between Sabarmati and Mumbai, those stakeholders will finally get the benefits. So when you talk about the benefits management, there will be some benefits to be ensured at the beginning, some benefits to be assured as we progress the project, and some benefits to be realized after the program implementation or the program, all constituent programs are over. And the difference is that project management is typically tactical. You have to do the right things, and you will try to put a project execution plan or a project management plan, and and generally it is the intent of a project person. Like if you look at a contractor, he wants to finish his job and go get paid and go. But if one project, if let us say from Delhi to Jalandhar, you are putting a big Delhi to Chandigarh, you are putting another theoretically another eight-lane roadway, and then one of the project person, because he is bankrupt, etc., he doesn't do his job. Other segments do their job. Then what will happen is the program benefits are not realized because we still have one stretch of the road which is never complete, or maybe a bridge which is never complete. So we are not really achieving. So, but if I look at a particular contractor who is handling probably a road from Gurgaon to Diwadi or something like that, he probably will finish his job and go. For him, he got paid and his objectives are met. But for a program manager who wants to connect the two cities, for him the benefits are not realized. So the issue is generally the program is at a strategic level, doing the right things, doing the planning at a program level. And first thing, when you talk about strategy, first thing is you should ask why we are doing this program. And also to ensure that leadership over the multiple projects is taken care. There's a broad view, And when you talk about a program implementation, it is really a long term. Typically, a project infrastructure project maybe a contractor may execute the project in 24 to 36 months. But if you look at the person who is going to do the program development, he generally gets involved in defining the project, selecting the alternatives, having a detailed project reports, then selecting the contractor. After contractor executes a job, ensuring that it is handed over to the operations and sustaining those operations. So it's a particularly very long range of consideration when we talk about a program. I just took one small example. Let us say if you had to, this is already a project which is complete. Between Agra and Lucknow, it was divided into about more than 300 kilometers of six laning is there. So if what they did is that they have put them into 6 packages, so it's 5 discrete packages. Each of packages is close to about 60 kilometers. If you look at from the program perspective, if one stretch is done, then it's okay. One city and probably a minor city is well connected. But if the remaining stretches are not properly done, then it will be a situation that the original intent of connecting between Agra and Lucknow, that benefits are not fully realized. So unless all the projects, all the component projects are successfully concluded, meeting the program requirements, the program is never complete. So this is the perspective of a program. So when we talk about program management, in contrast to project management, we typically, there is a project, a PMO, which is, people call it program management office or a project management office. There's slightly difference, but there has to be an agency, a nodal agency who is implementing the project, which decides on standards to be followed, policies to be implemented. Untypical of software projects, what we see in infrastructure projects are things related to safety, labor laws, health, environment. Those are the policies has to be established at the program level. We need to identify to ensure that there is a training given to people who operate, or training given to the construction workers who are employed. A lot of times, when you take up a multi-billion-dollar investment in a region, you don't have skilled labor. Most of the time they all come from Bihar, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, and UP. But they cannot work like that, because unless you develop that skills, so there is as you all know, there is a skill development council, etc., which is looking at the training of the skilled workers, both in construction as well as in manufacturing. But when one of the things, if I remember, we were consultant for a $6 billion project, refinery project in East India. Then one of the things which I said to the ED is that, you see, you are going to have a requirement of about 40 to 50,000 people working in that location, and you will not get people. So it's probably before even starting issuing the contracts and deciding the contractors, why don't we as a project implementation agency start a big institute or collaborate with some ITA or something like that, and train the people so that they can utilize, they'll be also be happy, and you'll have local support for your project, etc. But because of this program management concepts were not there, that advice was not taken, and we had really issues of managing the required labor force, and the project gets delayed. So there are resources and processes. PMO generally is supposed to take care of that. And when you look at the life cycle, in a project life cycle, you all know that it is initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and control, and closeout, which is very, very straightforward. And when you look at programs, because each program is a combination of a conglomeration of several individual projects, so it will talk about, first thing is whether there is a strategy for doing so many projects together, and how we manage the benefits of this program, and how we take care of the program stakeholders, because the stakeholders, when you are connecting, for example, this high-speed rail connecting Sabarmati to Mumbai, the line processed through several villages, several cities, and in Mumbai it has to be taken largely underground, because you can't disturb the existing facilities, etc. So it requires a lot of effective engagement, advocacy. This is almost like not a small stakeholder arrangement as a knowledge area within a project management. It is a full-fledged strategy and implementation of how we acquire the land, how we take care of consideration of the issues which are related to the landowners, and how we engage with the other agencies which need to be included to remove the facilities, underground utilities, etc. A lot of things to be done. That itself is a very driven a project-like kind of situation within a program. And last but not least, we need to ensure the governance, because a lot of times what happens is each project has to be executed in relation to one another in a timely fashion. And one project gets delayed, it may affect other projects as well, other connected projects. And if one project fails, probably it doesn't provide the feed to the next project, then we'll have multiple problems of not being able to manage the program very well. So when you look at program life cycle, these are the 4 important components. Typically, you know about IBE, which has monitoring and control as a separate. I put it separate because monitoring and control is the cyclic issue. Similarly, in program management, we have initiation, planning, execution or implementation, and closure. And governance, like monitoring and control in projects, governance is the key. Governance is to ensure that all the component projects or constituent projects are executed properly, rightly. I'll talk about initiation, but this is the map of this goes up to Sabarmati, and we have this line. This is the high-speed station which goes up to Mumbai, and I think in this side there are a lot of land acquisition is already complete, and this side I think some of the, and I think non-Mumbai side I think it's acquired, but here we should be, most of the things are underground. So it's again, if you look at the DPR of high-speed rail project, it runs into 7-8 volumes. So that needs to be understood how intense it is. And one of the things when you are initiating a program, it needs to be looked at some of the prime activities which are related to how much it is going to cost as the initial cost estimate, how information related to the program is going to be managed, quality, all the things you see in a typical project, you can see it here. And we are talking about an initial level of risk, initial level of estimate, which may be a SWAC kind of an estimate, and the broad scope statements of component projects. But what additionally is needed is what are the HSC policies and guidelines, because health, safety, and environment are key issues in mega project execution or program management. And a lot of times these days, I think construction was lagging in digital and automation and innovation. Nowadays, we are talking about surveying the entire thing through LiDAR and drones, etc. So earlier, people used to take care of the leveling instruments and make survey. It used to take huge time. And nowadays, you take a plane or unmanned vessels, UAVs, and you can scan the area and get a reasonable description of the topography. So, and also while executing the projects, ensuring that data comes in, people analyze the data, etc. on time. So that needs to be taken care as well. So this is something where we probably need to, typical to untypical to project or PMBOK coverage, the additional areas are the financing models, digitalization, HSC policies, and program delivery and contracting strategies. Program delivery and contracting strategies are very important. I'll talk to you a little bit later on the planning. So first thing is having a broad vision and not setting the defining the vision, setting the vision, and developing a strategy is actually a mission. How do we get there, etc. Are typical broad ultimate goals established in a program, and then when the goal is established, then when you have identified several constitution projects, so one of the things we need to ask is, few questions we need to ask is it technically possible? Can it be funded? For example, HSR2 projects may not be existing. High-speed rail project may not be coming if the Japanese funding is not there, because money just can't come out of thin air. So funding agency, financing model are equally important. Or how many resources are available? Sometimes we can't execute a project if you don't have resources to execute the project. Is the team ready? Are the stakeholders on board? Are the risk assessed? If they look at all those things, then you probably justify a program to be undertaken, like a Delhi Metro, like a high-speed rail, like the Hyderabad Metro, Chennai Metro, whatever you call as a very large programs. So some of the examples of I have also given is about 3.2 billion Chicago region. They put a program feasibility called, they named it as a speed. I have given But I think if you look at the Indian context, I would advise you to go through high-speed rail website and go through their feasibility reports. I mean, for example, the two projects which are won by L&T, they contribute about $4.5 billion. So the Chicago project is a small compared to that. Risk management, I'm not going to talk about it much, but risk management is a separate topic. I mean, it has to be done initially, it has to be done during the project, it has to be done when you choose individual contractor to execute the project. It has to be done when the contractor has finished the project, because the program project is over, but program will never be over unless other constituent projects are completed. So this has to go through several steps. And typical charter of a program is you have mission, vision, organization structure, roles and responsibilities. One of the important things is project delivery and contracting strategy, funding models, budget constraint, schedule constraint, quality expectations, safety standards, and communication procedures, because how various stakeholders will be there in a program of a big. So typically, this is a very good representation of a program. So we say we are having a program to connect two cities. I'm just taking the connecting two cities as a program, which is linear projects are relatively simple, though they have a complication related to land acquisition. But I'll take that example. So if you have one program, then it may be having 6 constituent projects. They are all governed by the guidelines, principles that are established by PMO. And not that one project is complete, that program is not complete. So when all the projects connectedly and meet their respective objectives and they are integrated, then we have the program closure. So initially, this starts with a program implementation plan, and each of the project is actually the program implementation agency is the owner. There may be EPC contractor who may engage vendors, sub-vendors, etc. This itself is a project management domain. Each of the projects is to be governed by the principles of project management, and overall, all the projects have to be governed by the principles of program management. Some of the issues which I have slated in the second slide, where projects have overruns, there are issues, etc. They have to be addressed by some of the things which I have mentioned here. That should be part of the program planning, a pre-project planning and contracting strategies, interface management. A lot of times people execute a job. Most of the problems come with an interface of one project with the other, or with the interface of one project with the local authorities and other projects in that area. So a lot of the things will be coming. So interface management is the key. It is not seen as one of the knowledge areas, but in infrastructure projects or EPC projects or energy projects, this is interface management and system integration is one of the key. And risk reuse is a continuous process, as I told. It should be integrated. A lot of times people say, I will do my risk review. No, most of the global organizations nowadays that say the risks are not one single person's risk. It needs to be sometimes owner may be at a best place to solve. Sometimes contractor may be, sometimes the consultant may be, sometimes a third party may be. So this is necessary to review the risk collectively. And information management. A lot of problems in projects and programs are related to not having the visibility of the data and the reality of the projects. I generally say that for any project information or a program information, any constituent project information, you should have a single source of truth. And the single source of truth is only possible if you have a digital implementation on the project. That comes to the next one, where lengthy reports are done, which are never read by people. To that, it needs to be transformed to having a project dashboards visible. If you want to go into details, you should be able to dig into details from the dashboard, not 200 pages, 300 pages of the reports. Those may be necessary to generate automatically for documentation purpose, but they are not the right tools for decision-making purpose. So dashboards should replace the reporting directionally. A lot of times people say in infrastructure projects, specifically people say, I have hindrance list. Every month they generate before contractors generate a program or a list saying these are the reasons we are not able to progress on the project. The hindrance list has to be replaced by needs list. The mentality should be to achieve this milestone on the 31st of December 2021. I probably need this information by September 2021. So if the need list mentality comes, then I think a lot of issues which are generally reactive can be converted into a proactive measures to ensure the delivery. Reverse clock is something well done by Mr. Sridharan. He did it in Konkan Railways, he did it in DMRC. It works visibility-wise to all the project teams, so how much time. I generally say that don't just do it for the end of the project, do it for all the important milestones. So that people, unless people achieve the milestones in between, they can't achieve the purpose of the project. Then the rate of way, acquisition plan, permit acquisition. A lot of times infrastructure projects and construction projects need to deal with a lot of permits and approvals to be taken care. If they are not in time, it affects the rest of the project. So they're always necessary to have a permit management plan and then checklists. So I have also talked about change management. Our previous speaker talked about how FIDIC address change. Our NHA contract addresses change. In India, the draft contract also addresses change. But if you look at some of the government contracts which are currently executed as projects, we don't have the proper addressing of the changes. We don't have proper definitions for force majeure. So all these things for all the constituent projects can be established at a program level. A lot of times, this is Amit Khare's word. A lot of times projects do not suffer because of poor decisions, because poor decisions can be corrected very easily. A lot of times, no decisions and late decisions are issues. So there has to be decision-making mechanism. Then utilities are, when you do roadways, etc., utility shifting is a major issue. The utility shifting strategy has to be done. And last but not least, motivational fitness and suitability of the role to be performed. If somebody is not, if somebody is, there are, different project deliverables have different mindset. For example, somebody who is performing engineering has to be highly creative, highly aligned to, doing calculations and generating drawings and doing designs, etc. Somebody at a construction should know how to motivate the people, how to manage the stakeholders, how to manage. So the skill set is entirely different. So motivational fitness has to be. I initially thought I'll spend some time on this case study. But I'll probably spend 2 minutes. This Bogeybill Bridge is a very important bridge in the northeastern part of the world in India, and on the Brahmaputra River. If you really look at the project, is 6 hours planned initially, and it has taken about 20 years. Cost hour is 1767, and final it's probably landed at about 6,000 crores. Modi has commented on how much time it has taken, etc. Then there is a variation in length. The issue is that this is a very important connectivity connecting bridge in the northeast area. The issue is none of the project management principles or program management principles are followed, and then it is, as you can see, this project has taken more time than necessary. So that leads to our second important issues, which are not related to strategizing, but also related to the planning. So it comes to all the areas which are discussed earlier. They have to be included as a part of the program planning, and the responsibility delineation. So there has to be a program people who are managing the program, and the contractor organizations will be typical project management organization, project management, etc. What is more important is that the pre-project planning, we have to look at, for example, in typical roadways, it is alignment of the alternatives people evaluate and define the project. I mean, you need to define the project. If you don't define the project, you can't actually make a lump sum EPC kind of a contract. So the contracting strategy, which probably contracting documents or contracting contract formats are talked by my previous speaker. What is equally important is to decide, if I'm executing 6-7 projects within a program, what kind of contracting strategy works for each of the constituent. For example, if I have a well-defined scope, etc., for doing a bridge, I defined everything, given the soil data, all the stuff to the contractor, probably I can go to a lump sum EPC kind of a contract. Other contracts are, there are contracts which are BOQ related contracts based on item rate contracts, lump sum EPC contracts. There are various contracts. So each, depending upon the definition of the project, a contracting strategy has to be done. Typically in programs, we spend about 2-3 days on discussing what kind of contracting strategy is appropriate. When you talk about a contract strategy, it looks into contracting formats like FIDIC formats or NITI Aayog formats and HA formats, etc. Second, it looks into the scope documents, and third, it looks into compensation measures. Whether it is lump sum turnkey or it should be how the lump sum turnkey is to be paid on the regular billing, should be a monthly billing, or it should be based on the milestones. All these decisions are sometimes it could be this project cannot be executed unless it is following a PPP model or a HAM model, hybrid annuity model, etc. So all those decisions are a part of a pre-project planning. If I look at program management to project management to the activities performed within a project, you see that a program management plan talks about each individual, how each big program has to be converted into project 1 to project 10, and then having a program implementation plan. When it goes to program project management, you may have engineering, procurement, and construction with all the schedule, cost, and schedule. Typically, you are aware of the projects. And at a functional level, there will be procedures, plans, and this one. But in infrastructure projects and contracting projects, important things are related to, which are not typically covered by a PIM book or the kind of a documentation, will be the HSC plans, how interfaces and integration, the integration management PIM book is entirely different from what I'm talking about. Integration of different projects to deliver the final objectives of the program. And so these are all things, and funding, of course, they're not covered in typically in PIM book. That needs to be really looked into when you talk about a program. And this is another important
sir, sorry to interrupt. We exceeded like time so much due to the technical issues. So
okay,
please request you.
Yeah, like give me 5 minutes more. I think we'll.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, I mean, the most important thing is establishing how each project starting to ending are connected to the overall program, that is on the schedule. And then when you're implementing, a few things which you need to remember while you're implementing is how the typical in projects we talk about project monitoring. In a program, we should talk about how we are able to ensure that several constituent projects are managed simultaneously, how the risks are integrated at a program level, not just at the project level. So a few things I mentioned here. And this one on how to manage the changes in the value as I'll skip it for the time being. Most important thing is when you talk about projects, we talk about project outputs. The schedule, project is delivered on time within budget according to the quality. When you talk about program, we talk about program outcomes and benefits, whether the outcomes, which are, for example, connecting two cities like Sabarmati and Mumbai through high-speed railway, whether this outcome is achieved or not. And while we talk about project monitoring and controlling of the plan, schedule, cost, time, etc., we should look at in a program and a governance how the project is being complied to the requirements of the program, how overall budgets are done, how the baselines are protected in each of the program as well as each of the project as well as the program. So those need to be taken care. This is a lot of times in programs and projects we talk about, and the project implementation agency and the contractor should have continual alignment in the beginning of the contract, during the contract execution, and toward the closure, so that there is no gap in understanding on the expectations from the owner versus understanding from the. A lot of times this gap leads to risks, and this can be avoided. Last but not least is program closure. As I said earlier, each of the constituent projects has to be closed. Then only a project can be a program can be closed. So when you look at, then it has to be transitioned to the operations like a tollway or whatever it is. Most important thing in case of closing a project is lessons learned. I generally call lessons learned as at the end of each project or at the end of each stages of the program as well. You look at what went well, what went wrong. What went well is the best practice. What went wrong, we have to have a better way to do. So I generally call project experiences and program experiences have to be translated to better ways and best practices. And that unless we do that, you don't achieve the goals of the particular project in the program. So it follows the same thing. I mean, the program may have sub-programs and then projects, and there could be subsidiary programs, and subsidiary programs can have projects. It could be as complicated as possible when you talk about a multi-billion-dollar investment. But few things I would suggest that when you're looking at a program, look at what is the vision, what is the overall objective, how it is sourced, and how each of the projects is approved, how we can engage with the stakeholder, because there will be multiple stakeholders compared to a typical project execution, and ensuring each contractor and each component project having the right contracting strategy, right definitions of the project is equally important, and ensuring that there is an overall framework established to monitor and provide governance on the project. At the end, we will be creating assets which are of national importance and which will be used by the people to reach the benefits which we initially contemplated about. It could be social benefits or economic benefits. That's what I talked about. That's a brief of what is program management. As I said, we have written 560 pages of infrastructure body of knowledge. To put 560 pages into 60 minutes is a challenge. So I try to give you a glimpse of what the program management of infrastructure projects is about. Happy if you want to ask any questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Like this was, even most of the people, including myself, topic of interest, and love to hear all the insights and the information that you shared with us. It was really awesome. Thank you so much. People, please capture the video information from the slide here, and I'll give you a minute. And before I switch it over to Vikas, sorry, we will not be able to take any questions today due to we have already exceeded our times, and we have already exceeded timelines. So yeah, and while you capture, I will hand off to Vikas. Hope you have all taken a screenshot or capture of the PDF information. I'm switching over to Vikas, and we'll bring up this information if needed again.
Thank you, Rakesh. And while you are making me presenter, thanks, Rakesh. And Rao sir, thank you very much for walking us through this. Some of the things which I really realized after going through your presentation, how simple a project can be and how complex a program could be. I mean, you talked about few things like land acquisition, environmental clearing, subcontractors. These were the things which as a project manager, sometimes you don't realize. And when you talked about multiple projects and one project going slow while rest are fine, but that doesn't work because it doesn't give the benefit of the program. That reminds me of a saying that says, the herd of a buffalo can only move as fast as the slowest buffalo. So as a program manager, you have to make sure that all the buffaloes, all the projects, they are walking at the same speed what a program needs them to be. So this was really enlightening. So thank you once again. And I really apologize for the technical glitch. I know Mishra sir is also there. I know Rao sir, you had another appointment, but still you managed to stay with us. We really appreciate that and can't thank you enough for that one. And as a token of appreciation, I would also like to share with you that we are planting 10 trees in your name, and you see the certificate. We will send it across to you. And thanks once again for that. Now, with that, we have come to the end of this session. I really apologize once again to all the participants for the delay due to the technical glitch, but we have learned and we'll make sure it doesn't happen again. And I would also like to thank Preetham sir, who is the president of the North India chapter, also Manoj sir, the past president and mentor and advisor to the board. And those participants who joined us at the beginning, you would have realized that both Manoj sir and Preetham sir, they announced the PMI NIC Construction Forum. And you will hear more about that in coming days. And Mishra sir and Rao sir, we would also like to get time-to-time feedback and inputs and advice from you while we are forming that board, that forum. So let me tell you, the association doesn't stop here, rather it starts from here. So we will just join hands and we will be enlightened with your presence and your experience. Rakesh, I would like to thank you as well for moderation. I know it was very difficult managing those links and going back and forth. Thank you very much for that. And all the participants, you took some time on Sunday. Thank you very much for your time. And apologies for the delay once again. The PDF information, hope you have captured that. In case not, then please feel free to write to me or Rakesh or anyone anytime, and we'll share that information with you. So with that, I thank you once again, everyone, and I would let you go back to your Sunday while I go and get my water pump fixed now. Interesting day today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.